Timmy Murphy, ex-jockey, part-time farmer. Dad used to be an amateur jockey, Jimmy Murphy, mainly point to points. And I was reared on stud farm, Newbury stud in Kilcullen. And we had ponies and racehorses and yeah, so basically I never wanted to do anything else. I was just horses all my life and always wanted to be a jockey. Yeah, and that's probably where it started. Mum's family were farriers, so they used to have a forge down at Shamballamore. And then my uncle Mick, he was a farrier and a farmer. He took over a farm as well, and he was obsessed with racing. He's a farrier at Mallow, actually, Mick Welch. Yeah, he got me a few spins pony racing that down. Actually, Brian Harding's father, John Joe Harding, who rode with my dad as well. I used to ride a pony for them. So yeah, I knew Brian, like when we were kids, we'd go down to Shambhala and go around with Mick, and Mick was to shoot the horses at the Hardings. So we'd be out there riding ponies and playing football and hurling. So I knew Brian way back. So like he's up north in England now. Yeah, there's the horses both sides. I did a few gymkhanas and I hated it. I had a pony that didn't like coloured poles and it didn't go well. But we did a lot of hunting, bit of pony racing. Yeah, and it's just watch the national on telly and go out and build jumps and jump ponies, and yeah, it was a great lifestyle. It was out in the country. Just roamed the land. I had one brother. He rode a bit. He rode a little bit. And I don't know whether it was I was doing well and he got pissed off with it, but he went off down the mechanic road then and working proper work for a living. Mum, well, she just probably typical mother, just didn't want her sons getting hurt, or she didn't like watching it. She'd watch the replays, like. But dad was, I remember riding, we used to start off riding the race horses, I don't know what we were, 11, 12, probably younger, and he'd have one on a lead rope and he'd ride one and you'd ride the other, but you'd be on the lead and you'd be going around the field cantering and he'd be squeezing you up against the rails. And that was my first memory of holding my own ground, don't be shrinking violet. But he was a great rider in his day when there was no helmets or back pads, and they used to ride over banks. But I still remember he used to ride the odd ones himself. But I remember all he used to say was, drop your irons, keep your hands down. Drop your irons, keep your hands down. Constantly. And I just wanted to ride like Lester Pickett. Always keep your hands down. And that's probably where it started, like, really. He was supposed to retire when he came for the job in Newbury. But he used to sneak off on the weekends, announced to Mam. And she'd see it in the results then in the paper, and she'd go mental. But yeah, he just loved horses. Horses were his life, like, he couldn't. I remember we'd go off playing football with the school there on the weekend, and he'd go, "Why are you playing that bloody football?" He says, "You don't even get paid for it." He says, "Be here doing, help me with the horses." But yeah, no interest in anything else, only racing horses. Loved it. Yeah, he was a good man. No, I never even rode a winner. I had a couple of places, and I rode in Dingle, but I started off on a Connemara pony, and I remember Dad Dad was gone to the sales in Newmarket, I think it was. Or he went to the sales in England anyway, and Mum was left in charge, and of course I took over and I put blinkers on him and every gadget known to man, and so we jumped off and he wouldn't pass anything, and I remember Dad going absolutely mental when I came back. But that was my first ride pony racing. Didn't go well. When I was in primary school, John O'Neill was the man, and we used to go to Punchestown with Mum and Dad just to get a glimpse of John Joe. I didn't know what I was looking at the time. I just knew John Joe was champion. He was the man. But when you look back at Frankham, he was just a beautiful rider as well. He'd fit in now. He'd stand out now for the right reasons. And you're talking, 30 years ago, 40 years ago? He was way ahead of his time. Like, he wasn't the strongest in the finish, but he was just beautiful out the country. It was class. The way he presented horses at fences was just magic. It looked like he was doing nothing. Like, he was just gifted. And you put him up on a horse now. We're watching him it was Lambourn Open Day, like, in school, and he was just natural. Like, Dad trained a couple there at home of his own, and then we started off riding out with him. And then the first experience of proper race horses were, we used to take the horses over in a tractor and a horse box over to the Curragh, unbeknownst to the gallop men. But we'd go over there about 4 o'clock in the morning, and he'd take the horses, and he used to have the odd jockey coming in, and I used to ride the pony behind him, and that was the first experience of speed. And I graduated then onto riding our own Dad's horses, and then riding them, and then I couldn't wait to leave school, so I used to cycle from Kilcullen to the Curragh every Saturday morning with a saddle and a bridle on the crossbar of the bike, and ride out for an old chance, and that was my first foray into a proper yard. Yeah. I would say I was about 14 or 15, yeah. I left school, I remember the minute I turned 16 I was gone, and of course Mum didn't want me to leave, but I was adamant. I was just, I was probably in too much of a rush when I was young, and I just wanted to be a jockey, like, and wanted it all now. And I went to Knowles and rode out there for a bit, and then I did a bit of time in Dermot Wells, and I got my amateur license. I remember Dad going mad when I went to Wells then. He goes, "What the hell are you going to a flat yard for? You want to be a jump jockey?" And so I didn't care whether it was jumping or flat. I just wanted to race. So I went to Wells, and I had my first ride for Dad in a bumper in Dundalk, on a horse that he trained. He ran all right. And then I had a ride in an open in Gorham Park on a horse called Snuggle Down for Dad. I fell off it. And then I went from Wells, then I went to Mick Halford's, and it was Mick gave me my first chance. Well, his uncle, and like Mick was training with George, a pointer fighter called Gale of War. And I remember I rode him I went to Cashel and rode him, finished third. And they weren't very happy with the ride I gave it, and they wanted to put up someone more experienced, and I think it was Derek Malloy. I think he was leading him up, and he said, "No, Jiz, no, give him a chance." And then we went to Kilmuckridge, and he won. It was very close. Like, it was myself and John Berry flat by the line together, and I was sure I'd won. And as we come back into the enclosure, Berry's horse went into number one, and Dyser was leading it up, And he went over, he says, get out of there, he says, get out, we won. And then the result went our way. But I remember there was no mobile phones around that time. I remember ringing home and ringing the grandmother, and at every stop we made, so the boys stopped at every pub on the way home, they had a fortune on it. But that was the first winner. And I did a few more rides for Mick, and then Mick sent me down to Horrigan's for the winter, because he was mostly flat horses Mick had. And he sent me down to Horrigan's for the winter. And I remember going down to Mike's, and sure, I thought I knew it fucking all the gear and no ideas. They said, so I went down to Mike's, and I thought Mike's house was the hostel. And I went in, and there was Mick and Anne and all the kids inside, and a small little cottage at the front gate. And I was going, geez, it's a bit rough for the hostel. I said, no, that's Mick's house. I said, holy Jesus. I said, we'll go up then, and he showed me around the yard, and I thought the hostel was the feed room. And it was a fair shock to the system, but it was the best experience of my life. I learnt more there than anywhere else. It was full on, but it was a brilliant experience. John Cullen was there, David Casey, Peter Henley, there was Robbie Burns, Shane Broderick, Kevin O'Brien, stable jockey. I'm sure I'm after forgetting a few now. Oh, it was brilliant. Some competition, I remember going down, he said, I promise you nothing. He said, but you'll have more schooling that you can deal with. And that's all I wanted, And then I remember, the first, he said, I got a ride for you. I can't think where it was now. But we'd have a lorry load of horses going there, and a few young lads riding, and Bulger would be riding, and most of them, and I had one ride in the novice riders, and it bloody won. And then didn't Robbie Burns get a fall then? Got concussed. So I got to ride that, and that won. And it just took off from there then. It was every Sunday then, I suppose you have to prove yourself, and the trainer has a bit of confidence in you then, he'll give you more spins. But we ended up being champion novice. We tied it with Kevin O'Sullivan that year, and just went from there then. I suppose 3 probably full on years, but I was point to point since I was, I think, 16 or 17, but the odd spin. But I came to England when I was 20. Well, I was amateur in Ireland, and I rode at the festival then for Charlie Edgerton in the Kimure, and then went back, and then got the job with Kim Bailey then as conditional. And I did an interview with Toby Balding. I don't think I was claiming enough for him. I was claiming 3 in Ireland, but I got £5 back when I came to England, so I was claiming 5. So he probably wanted a £7 claimer to get more mileage, But I went to Kim, and Kim gave me my first winner in the Toxeter. I wouldn't have been the star pupil, put it that way. I wasn't great at getting up in the mornings, and I was probably just lucky that I could ride a bit, and that got me away with murder, really, I suppose. And then riding for Kim, and then you had an agent then. Chris Broad took me on, and he was my agent then up till the end. So I'd say he'd probably tell you a few more stories. But yeah, it's just riding, just ground. Every day was, as you say, I was always in a hurry. I couldn't get enough. So I was probably getting too frustrated when things weren't going right, and and I ended up getting sacked then from Kimbo's, and I went freelance then for a year. I've been very lucky, like, because I shouldn't have made it at all, to be quite honest. You know, I had a spare for Nichols down in Newton Abbott, and it won. And then, you know, obviously freelancing, I was riding for Mark Pittman, Jim Old, you know, everyone, loads of people like that, you know, that stuck by me, and that one on the horse, I can't think of his name now. The horse for Nichols, can't think of it, but it won again. And then he offered me the job, and that was my first stint with Paul. But when you look back, like, it was only like I think I came to England 95, 94, 95. So it was all in the space of 3 or 4 years, like, which is nothing now, but back then it was, Jesus Christ, it's taken for ages. Like, I can't get going at all, you know. And always wanting more than, you know. I suppose you probably need to be like that, but it's bloody frustrating at the time. I never rode horses that were as fit, you know, and it was just easy. I used to love, like, AP would turn up and win a pipies and make the running, and I thought that's ideal. You know, I could just get a lead, pass him, you know, take him on over the last. And I remember always he'd pull up and he'd go, oh, Jesus, I should have gone harder. I said, if you went harder, I'd have beaten you easier. I mightn't have passed you till after the last. But it was just, for me, it was so easy, like, getting on them horses that were fit and jumped, and it made my job very easy, you know. The only thing with Paul is he could give you 2 or 3 sets of instructions. So he could tell, especially, he loved his horses handy. You know, he was obsessed with fitness. And they were schooled, they were fit. You know, he just bop them out handy. He didn't really like them being dropped in, but if there was one that needed dropping in, he'd tell you, you know, just take your time, you know, ride a race. And then he'd tell you that when you get the saddle, then he'd bring you into the ring. He'd go, you know, take your time, but not, you know, don't overdo it, like. Shit, no bother. And then he'd give you the leg up, and just before you go out, he says, well, make sure you're handy turning in. And you go, oh, for fuck's sake, I got 3 sets of instructions now. But generally, I found him easy to ride for, but he's tricky. He can be tricky, like, he's a winner. I got the boot out of Paul's then, because it was too hard on horses, because obviously the more winners you were getting, the more I wanted, and the ones that weren't doing as well as I thought they should, I was too hard on them. So Joe Tizard was coming along as the conditional there, and he took over for a season. Then I went freelancing again. I think Jim Old, I got a retainer with Wally Stewart then for a year, and I won the county hurl for Jim and Sir Talbot, and with some good days now, myself and Jim. And then I was going over to Ireland a bit for Tony Martin, and I got to ride on David's Lad in where was it? I think Adrian was supposed to ride him, and he couldn't get. I think he was with Ferdy, and he couldn't get released to ride him. So I went over and rode him, and he won. And he fucking ended up winning. He won by 15 lengths around Fairyhouse, and Harvey went absolutely mental. He says, "What the hell are you doing?" He says they were setting him up for the Irish National. And as it turned out, he wouldn't have got in the Irish National if he didn't win by 15 lengths, so I keep reminding him of that. So I ended up keeping the riding him, and we won the Irish National on him. And then Paul Nichols then spoke to my agent Brodie, and he says, Brodie rang, he says, you won't, as Brodie says in the West Country accent, you won't bloody believe it. He says, Mr. Nichols is after being on the phone, he wants you to come back. And I said, oh, just that's great. So then I had to let poor old Jim know, and so I went back to Nichols for another year. And then we were bombing along with I think I'd nearly ridden 100 winners for him that season. And then we had the famous flight to Japan, and that put tail to that. So that was that job gone. So after a few months at Her Majesty's pleasure, then I thought, well, I've ridden my luck now as far as I can go, and I said, that's it. I can't even fucking go to America. I can't get a visa or nothing. So I went back to where I started in Horrigan's, and I lived with Mike and Anne and rode out every morning just as a job. And he says, why don't you give another go? I said, yeah. He said, but you can stay here for a while, leave it all die down a bit. And then I started riding for Mike, and then B for Salmon came along. And then Paul Carby won, I think, to Morris Isles as a novice, his first run over fences. And then Mike says, sure, you can ride that lad there. And sure, then it took off again. And then I rode whatever many grade ones on him for Mike, and then he'd some other good horses there as well. So I was basically riding I was probably stable jockey there. Mike was easy to ride for. He kept it pretty simple. He'd give you the basics. But riding for the Irish trainers, they never wanted you winning too far, or they never wanted you to be arriving there before the last. To be fair now, like my view on it was, when he went to Cheltenham that first year and he fell at the first down the back, and he was never the same after. He was never as good a horse after that. And he still went on, that was his first season, and he still went on to win 13 grade ones, so I'll tell you what a horse he was before that. But yeah, I could never figure it out, because he wasn't a slow horse. He stayed well, but around Leopardstown he was something else. He was quick enough to win over 2 miles, and he'd a stand to win over 3-1, I think it was, around Leopardstown on heavy ground. But I've never ridden a horse that would travel and jump, but to quicken at the end of a race like him. He was a fantastic horse. But I don't think he was the same after that fall, because he had terrible back trouble after that. But fair play to him, he was still a great horse, freak of a horse, nothing special to look at, miserable out heading him, but Christ, he could gallop, he was fantastic. I mean, he was brilliant for me and Mike and the boys, but yeah, I used to just love riding him. He was tailor made for the way I rode. You just take your time, pop away, and 2 jumps and you're in the race. But probably looking at it, you become, oh Jesus, is he leaving too much to do? But I used to just love riding like that. I found it easy, always to be the last to commit. I rode him in his last run. Then it was his last run, I think, in Punchestown. They asked me over to ride him because he was retiring him, so. So he was, he's still knocking around the national stud with all the other heroes. I was always obsessed with how jockeys look. I used to love Steve Cawthon when he first came. So I'd probably based it more on the flat side of things than the jumping side. I used to love Cash Asmussen, they're 2 ultimate stylists. And that's probably where it started. And then, you just try and you have to practice all the time. You can look as good as anyone when you're on a mechanical horse, but when you're in the heat of a finish, sometimes it all goes out the window, But it's just with confidence in that, and but yeah, I used to take a lot of, how would you say? I used to make a lot of effort, to look tidy and always turn out well, Reapplied for my licence and started back riding in Ireland. So I rode away, and then I moved back to England again, and then I was just going over and back on the weekends all the time. Just a lot of driving and starting again. And I remember, like, you're going back down to the bottom of the pile again, you know. But yeah, just just stuck at it, and then but then AP, the news broke that AP left pipes and went to John Joe's, and I was going, "Geez, it's a fair move now, like leaving pipies, like." But didn't think anything of it anyway, and just kept riding away. And I had beef for Sam was winning. Sure, he was winning a Grade 1 every time he went out. He won the Heineken at Punchestown, and I remember Brody rang me. He says, Pipes wanted to know why haven't you put your name in? And I says, well, I didn't put my name in because it wouldn't be a job for me, like, you know. AP and myself couldn't get more opposite. And he says, well, you better put your name in. So I said, well, sure, go on then. And it was David Johnson that wanted me. Not the Pipes didn't necessarily want me, like, but I think everyone in the bloody country put their name in, bar the one that he wanted. So I did, and I said, we'll meet up. We met up at Sudbury House in Farringdon. So David Johnson came down, and Brody came, and I came, and I told him my worries, and he says, yeah, but you know what, I'd really like you to ride mine, and should be most of the pipies are mine anyway. I think he'd 100 horses with Pipey at the time. I said, well, if you're sure, but I said, I don't know if Mr. Pipe will. He said, don't worry about Pipey, I'll sort him out. So yeah, so then we shook on it, and that was the next chapter. Well, you had Welsh Sheaf, yeah, Welsh Sheaf or Vic, Comply. They were probably the main ones, and then we had, we won however many Paddy Powers. But Pipey was a handicap genius, like, but I remember you going into that November meeting at Cheltenham, you'd be 10 foot tall walking in, like, because you knew, like, you'd walk into the parade ring and he went, this is a certainty. I said, okay, Mr. Pipe. He said, all you have to do, jump the first, jump the last. Certainly. And I'd win on the bridle, like, absolutely. Like, we had 7 winners there one year over the 3 days, like, it was just carnage. But all handicappers, but our Vic, he started off a handicapper. It was some certainty when you think about it now in the Paddy Power. And then we had Celestial Gold was another one. He won the Paddy Power in the Hennessy, only 2 weeks between races. He was another horse I loved riding. He had loads of, he was a keen horse, and you had to drop him right out, just creep away on him. But I think he'd terrible fucking legs, but yeah, he ended up running a Gold Cup, like, so I think he ran in the Paddy Power. I think I can't remember, he'd hardly any weight anyway. But yeah, just finding them horses, a lot of them were costly horses. Comply, he was costly horse, but we used to fly. I remember, we all, David Johnson and Martin Pipe and myself, and we flew over, and Mrs. Pipe and Mrs. Johnson. We flew over to Costello's, dropped Shannon, I think it was, private plane, dropped down, and walking in through security then, and all the baggage lads, like, knew who I was. Oh, tell me, how are you? How are you getting on? And David was going, just, we could smuggle that into this country. Yeah, so yeah, down into Costello's, and look at 20 or 30 horses there and take your pick. I think Comply was a freebie, but I think we bought something that was no good, it bled or something. So Mr. Costello, sir, send it back. He said, I'll send you on another one. So yeah, but he'd spent some money there to get to him. 2008, he won the national. He won the Eider before that. He was a good horse, but not. He wasn't quite a graded horse. You know, he was placed in a Son of Lions, placed in a Hennessy. He got one pace. Obviously stayed real well. But savage jumper, you know, good attitude. Went on any ground. Because we put blinkers on him, so he travelled real strong. But he jumped off handy. But he was just always doing a little bit too much. Like, as I remember going out in the last circuit, he landed in front. And I was, Christ. Because, you know, it goes again about, you know, experience. You can't buy experience. Because I remember I rode Smarty in that national. It was a Red Marauders national. And I think there was only 4 of us going out the last circuit. And I was sitting. And I remember Guesty hit the last ditch. And I said, absolutely no way. He can't still be standing. And I had a look behind and he was still standing. So I gave my leg a squeeze across the Mellon Road. And once I'd done that, I was beat. So that was in my mind. All the way, like, just sit, turn in. And I think I joined Casey at the last. And I'd half in my head of, just wouldn't it be great to win a national on the bridle? And then I'd look behind me and I saw Carby doing the same. I said, no, fuck that. And we went for home, but yeah, fantastic day. It was just a blur, like, really. You know, you'd have to say it was the greatest day. The Irish national and the English national would be, yeah, I've never much luck in the Gold Cup. I think it was fourth. I think fourth was something like that was the best he done. But you need to get on good horses, you know, to win a Gold Cup. It's, you know, it's a hard. You've probably a better chance in a handicap, like in a national, but then you need to have a lot more luck as well, you know. Very clever man. Mad genius he is. That's what he is. You know, I remember I rode a filly. I rode a filly in a Selling hurl somewhere, and it got beat. And we used to fill out a report after every ride. You'd have to fill out your report, and ground, how it travelled, how it went to the start, how it moved in the race, how it jumped. Did it jump left, right? You know, it was just very detailed. Comments, any extras like tongue ties or blinkers needed, and down in comments I said, if that's as good as she is, I don't think she's much good. Something like that anyway. So we went to Sandown on a Saturday, big meeting, first race I think it was, handicap hurl, and he went, what do you think? I said, jeez, Governor, I said, on our last run we're going to struggle here a bit. You think so? I went, well, it's a seller the last day, wasn't it? Yeah. She's not much good, is she? I said, she's average enough. It's all mind games with him, like, you never knew what he was thinking. And I says, what do you want me to do? Well, I should bounce her out there and make the running. Bounced out, made the running, never hit it. I was going, Jesus Christ. What would I know? But yeah, he was a gifted man. But he probably had trust issues as well. Like, I remember when I first got the job, like, I've no interest in gambling. You know, I've no interest. I'd never have a bet or no interest because I hate losing. But there was a certain reporter told me afterwards, because Pipey would never ring you. He'd never ring you the day before and go through a race or anything. So I got this phone call one evening. I was in Bangor the next day, and he says, Timmy, yeah, Mr. Pipe, how are you? He said, this horse tomorrow is an absolute certainty. Won't get beat. I said, okay, thanks. Yeah. We'll see you there. I said, grand, okay. Grand. I said, Went on to Bangor, duly pitched up. Never taught anymore. He wasn't even there, so you'd ring him, and he says, "Yeah, just jump off nice and handy, certainly." And toured around, won, and I won't say the chap's name in case he gets into trouble, but he told me after. He says, "Did Pipey ring you last night?" I went, "Yeah, he did." Very unusual. He says, "Yeah, because he was watching the prices." He said, "He says if you were punting him, he'd know that it'd fucking drift or it'd come in." I said, "Oh, crafty." But he didn't have anything to worry about anyway. I didn't rob his prices. But yeah, he left no rock unturned. But yeah, detail. Love riding over fences. I found riding over fences to be a bit easier than hurdles. For some reason, like seeing strides, and horses would be a bit more in tune with you, whereas hurlers are just wing, 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 I don't know, I got on with horses better over fences than hurdles. I just got a better tune out of them. So it's hard to explain, but yeah, they settled. I found that they settled better, and fences would bring them back in their hocks a little bit. Whereas hurdles, it's always forward, 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 and very hard to get a breather into them, Yeah. Pipe Martin's last championship, I was riding for him. And then David took over the following year. But 2008 was the time of the financial crash that time, and that it hit David Johnson hard. I think he lost a lot of money overnight. So the horses were reduced, and then that was the start of the reduction numbers wise. And then yeah, we still had good horses, like our Vic, that 2008 we had our Vic won the Betfair Bowl, Comply won the national, and All Ella won the entry hurdle. So we won all the three big races. But he was another brilliant horse, All Ella, and John Quealy. He used to do a fantastic job with him. But he was another horse that never handled Cheltenham, never come up the hill. I think was he fourth or fifth in a Triumph? I think he ran the champion, and he was beaten in the champion hurl, and that was it. He never ran there again. He was adamant, he has to have a flat track, like. But he was magic around the entry. He won there 4 years on the trot. He won the novice, and then he won 3 entry hurls. I used to hate it, to be honest. I just thought it was a pressure cooker, and everyone wanted your opinion, and you had to do boxes, and I absolutely hated it. I was always better at Cheltenham when it was on a no-hoper and riding them to run well, like. But I didn't like. I loved the entry better. Like, it was a nicer atmosphere. Cheltenham was brilliant if you're winning, but it's the worst place in the world if you're not. It's horrific. You get so built up about coming up to Cheltenham, do all the previews, and this is, and I think this is my best ride, and that bubble is burst, and it's just get me out of here as quick as possible. Don't get me wrong, it is, you could not, riding a winner at Cheltenham beats everywhere else. The crowd, and it's all in top of you, but when you're on a fancy one there and it gets stuffed, you just can't get out of there quick enough, like. The stay with David Johnson, like, he obviously got ill then, and he passed away quite sudden. We thought he was making a recovery, and he got ill at Royal Ascot. He had to leave one, and then he never came back from it. So the family didn't really, they ran whatever was left. That it was David's baby. That was his release. And just knocked around, and then I got a few falls then, and I had trouble with my shoulder. I kept dislocating my shoulder all the time, and the doctor said he couldn't pass me. He says you'd be better off, going for the career-ending insurance. But I didn't want to go that way. So I thought, as I'd lost a lot of weight, I don't know whether it was depression or whatever it was, but I was around 9 stone 4 or 5. So I thought, I just got the idea, sure I could have a go in the flat. And I asked him, he says, yeah, I'll pass you to ride in the flat. So that was the next chapter then. I started riding out for Jamie Osborne in Lambourne. And it was exciting because it was new. And Jamie gave me my first winner, a horse called Houdini at Wolverhampton. And then, yeah, it was just, look, it was, I didn't hit the highlights. I mean, I rode in a group race and a second at Royal Ascot. Few winners for Hamdam, for Hannans. That was the highlights of it, really. But I was about 2 years. It was really interesting because I was learning every day. It was all new. But then, the weight then started to get to me. I just couldn't keep doing it. I was sweating. I don't know how they do it nowadays because you can't even use the sauna at the racecourse. But I was sweating in the bath here at night and then riding out and putting a sweatsuit on in the car. It was just, in the end, it was torture. And in the end, I wasn't enjoying it. I didn't want to go racing. And then that was it. Then that was the sign. If you don't want to do it, just get out. And I thought, I said, the next winner, I said to the boys, the next winner, that'll be it. And of course, they thought we were only messing. Like. So I told Jason Maguire, he tried to get me a winner. He went all the way to Catterick on one of the Roonies, got beat. It was money on, got beat. And so I was tipping around it, and then I went to Chepstow for Neil Mulholland, and that it was a horse I won a couple on, and he duly won, and that was it then. I said, I'm out of here. I was delighted I'd done it, because I met plenty of people, and I learned a lot. I just regret it wasn't a bit lighter. It was a totally different feeling to ride or jump winner to a flat winner. If you're in the flat, you're it's obviously your draw, the ability of your horse, and getting a good start. Like whereas, a 3 mile novice chase there, you think you've made a difference anyway. But on the flat, you get a good break and you sit and you quicken. Look, don't get me wrong. There is a lot of skill to it as well. But I think most of the skill is trying to get on the good horses. But it's definitely more satisfaction to ride a jump winner. I wouldn't do it now. No, I wouldn't. It's, the rules, the no saunas. It's a different way from what I was used to. We used to ride together, we'd party together. Not anymore. Like, I suppose you can't say it's too serious because it's probably they'll disguise that as being professional. But we had a great time doing it. We lived in Farrington. There was Adrian Maguire, Jason Titley, myself, Glenn Tormey, Jerry Hogan, Johnny Kavanagh, Mick Fitzgerald, Dunwoody. Like, that was some bunch of lads to live in the same town, like. So we always went everywhere together, So, no, brilliant times. You wouldn't have it now. You wouldn't ask for room if Maguire was going well in front of you, but if he was coming back through the field, you'd say, Mutley, give us a bit, and he would. But you know, we're all out there to win. Like, you'll help each other. If your chance is gone, you wouldn't be a dick. Like, you just, there you go. Unless you didn't like him. But we got on brilliant. It was a great bunch of lads around. Yeah, it was just like big family, really. I didn't think there was anything wrong with the rules before. You know, obviously one or two would be a bit too hard on them, but personally, I think they're bringing focus onto it when it doesn't need to be brought on in the first place. You know, society nowadays panders to the minority to keep the minority happy. Like, what about the majority who have no problem? You know, if I could change something, I'd probably have less racing. I think there's too much racing, and I think anything that's too much of, yeah, all you do is dilute it. You know, I think that's where Ireland has got it right. They don't have too much racing. Get down. Where are you going? You're not supposed to be in here. Yeah, too much racing basically, and you know that dilutes the prize money. So you get less racing, you'll have more runners, more prize money. Oh well, the horse I loved was Vodka Blue. He was the only handicapper, but I used to love riding him. He was awesome jumper. He was another drop-in horse, but he only won handicaps. There's a horse in Pittman's got. I think it was Ashley Park, was it? Or was it Hitman? No, I think it was Ashley Park. He won a Group 3. And then he ran the Champion Hurl in his second run. And he broke down the Christmas Hurl, and that was him done. He could have been a good horse. I'm sure we might have to check his name though. I'm sure it was Ashley Park. Owned by Tracy Brown anyway. But Mark was some good winners for Mark too. Won a Hennessy for him on Ever Blessed. Mark, we had some good winners for Mark. Do you rate a trainer on the good horses he has or the numbers he has? That was always my wondering, was, you know, when they changed the champion trainer to prize money, or from prize money, wasn't it? Yeah, from numbers to prize money. I could never get my head around that. That's like having a champion, like predicting your champion jockey on prize money. Like, I mean, it has to be winners, isn't it? But they couldn't beat Pipey at the time, so they had to do something. I didn't fear anyone. The only, can I swear on this, can I?
Yeah.
Yeah. The only fucker that used to come and do me the odd time was Noel Feely. Crafty little shit. Very few now would come later than me, like, but he was one of them. Russell was another one, you know. Great patience. Carberry, another one. You didn't want to be looking behind it and seeing him. But yeah, I wouldn't fear anyone. I'd probably admire would be more. You can't go out fearing someone, like, you know. You have to believe you're going to beat them, or you have to believe you're better than them. But you can't let that be seen, like, otherwise you're a cocky shit. But internally you have to think you're better. Yeah, Carberry was a beautiful rider. Stone mad, like, but he was quality to watch. Brave as a lion, like. But mad as March Hare though. Who else did I admire? Adrian was fantastic. Adrian Maguire. You know, I remember when I was riding for Horrigan, you know, he'd left Horrigan's, he was amateur at Mike's, and he'd gone to England, you know, and he was setting the world alight. So he was, you know, I looked up to him. I looked up to Dunwoody. AP. Like when you're a young lad coming through, you're looking at them lads and you're trying to take little bits off everyone. Norman Willison was a beautiful rider. Osborne was class as well. You know, you just try and take the best bits from the best riders. I don't know. I would find it hard to be on the ground looking as been on their back feeling it like. And you can't train 50 horses by riding. You have to be watching them. So I don't know whether that's it, whether we spend too long riding and we're too good at it, and we know we'd know the horse from riding it rather than from looking at it. I don't know. Changed loads of stuff. And I'd probably been a bit more dedicated. I think I probably wasn't as dedicated as I should have been. I could have been a bit more successful. But change anything else. Yeah, as I say, experience, you can't buy it. If I could have had the experience earlier on, I'd have changed a whole lot of stuff. You know, I'd have rode a different way. I'd have been a bit kinder. But you only get to that stage through experience, and you have to make mistakes to learn. You know, and then you have to grow a pair of balls basically, and ride the horse, and not. There's a lot of the time the trainer gets it wrong, like, and you watch racing now, and everything is out the gate handy. They're all flat to the boards, and it was whoever's scraping home, like, and you have to just have the balls to take a pull, like, and ride the race. Keep it simple. You know, you can overcomplicate things way too much. You going over races in your head and this scenario and that scenario. Just keep it simple. If you keep it simple, it usually goes pretty much your way, you know. But I've got 3 sons. One is 23. He doesn't do any riding. He's more into football. So he plays for a team over near Ipswich. And then I have Lucas, who's 14, and Finn, who's 12. So Lucas is in boarding school now, so he doesn't get to do as much as he want. But he rode out with me in Hannons this summer. So I'm hoping we can get him in there as an apprentice at some stage. But I think education comes first. And Finn won the Point of Points Series Pony Racing Championship last year, so he's only 12. But they're both very keen, like. But it's a different experience to sit watching them ride than it is to going out and doing it yourself. I don't know. I ride out for Richard Hannon, and do a bit of pre-training here. Got a few cattle. Yeah, that's about it.